Hi, Phil. We're all here. We're all met.
All right. You want me to get the show on the road?
Please do.
All right. I don't really have any time frame, right? It's just kind of start
Yeah.
talking and then you'll do like they do in the Grammys. You'll start playing the music. Yeah, if I go too long.
If we all start singing, you'll know.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like that. Well, no, I'll start off a little bit about me. Phil, you call me Philip P. Wade. You'll hear all those names out there. P. Wade Ross with Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers. I'm chief executive with our organization, which is a community-based organization, a nonprofit that was established in '98 to help historically underserved producers reach their potential in their knowledge, their skills, in building business enterprises. We also serve as a voice just on policy in the state of Texas as well. My personal background is I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. So my journey has been, I've had highs and lows. You know, I've had lows of losing every penny that I had in business. And I've had, some highs, such as co-founding, building and selling a multi-million-dollar mortgage bank that a buddy and I had established. So, and any and everything in between. So I think I'm the right guy to be chatting with y'all today. But and thank you, Michelle, so much for inviting me. This is actually my passion, is just sharing, sharing this stuff in a way that people can receive it that's practical. So in addition to my role with our nonprofit, I currently run a few active businesses as a financial literacy trainer. My wife has an online bakery that she runs, which so I have to stay away from her bakery though. It's dangerous. So I've learned to move my office way away from her bakery, but because the smells that come out here are dangerous. But I also run a grass-fed cattle and composting operation on land that has been in my family since the 1880s, believe it or not. Yeah. So when it comes to business, I guess I'll jump right in. The reality is that 2 out of every 3 businesses will fail. And the main reason for that mostly is that people are not prepared emotionally, nor equipped with the skills, the unique skill sets that it really takes to be a successful entrepreneur. So I've found personally there's really 3 keys to succeed. And number one is emotional strength and fortitude. And what I mean by that is you really have to be willing to fail your way forward. And not very many people are built that way. Our society tells us is that, we go through the school, you have to pass the test. If you fail the test, then guess what? You're a failure. Well, not necessarily. It doesn't really work that way in real life. As an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to be willing to fail, rinse and repeat to really learn the lessons you need to learn to move forward. But it's really a part of being an entrepreneur. The second thing I would say is scheduling on time and when I say on time, it's really time to work on your business, especially as farmers. A lot of times we're great at technicians at actually being out planning or whatever we do in farming. We're skilled at it. We're technicians. But when you're a business owner, you also have to be willing to master the essential skills that it takes to run a successful business. And those skills are things such as sales and marketing, building the right team, whether it's actually coming out of your payroll or just the people that you surround yourself with. It's leadership skills and it's productivity skills, which means getting results efficiently, things like time management and setting up systems that, that are going to really pay you over and over again. So the third thing I would say, which is probably the most important, key to succeed in business and entrepreneurship is belief. You have to know that you have what it takes. It doesn't matter if everybody else says, hey, you're gifted. If you don't understand that you have what it takes, and then you know enough to at least move forward, and you're willing, like I said earlier, to fail your way forward, great. Most people go out of business because they hit a speed bump, and what you're going to hit, it happens to all of us, and people just kind of get in their own heads and stop and quit. And you just have to, more than anything, you have to believe in yourself. Some reasons why now, and to me personally, why now, this time right now in our history is really the best time to be an entrepreneur. Is number one is that the industrial age has pretty much died. If you haven't really noticed that, that what happened in the 1900s when you saw this big, huge industrial boom is there was a mass exodus up north, where people would go and they'd get schooling to become, to work in the factory, that kind of mindset. That age has come and gone. They just haven't given us the memo that says, yeah, it's over, y'all. So really, we're in what's called a connected age right now. There's more resources available worldwide as far as capital to run a business, getting the skills and talent, advertising. We have social media, Instagram. We have literally free advertisement and distribution channels that are at our fingertips that is unheard of, that we've never had at any other time in history. And as a result, many people with little or no talent are becoming millionaires. A lot of them don't even have, high school education. I saw something the other day where a couple 12-year-olds in Africa, in the Sahara part of Africa, actually were making, were millionaires from something they created, or were making sales on their cell phone. So this is the right time. For me personally, if I could go back 30 years and talk to my younger self, I would tell myself to know what to expect. That's really the key. That's really the difference between the people who make it and the people that don't, is that one of the biggest pitfalls out there being an entrepreneur, a business owner, is not knowing what to expect, because we just don't have a huge sample size of that, and when you don't know what to expect, you falsely think that some of the setbacks that you experience are abnormal. And all of a sudden, like I said before, you start getting in your own head. And half the battle as a business owner is confidence, is knowing, hey, I'm going to make this thing happen one way or the other. We're going to figure it out, And if you don't have that, if you think that a setback is abnormal as a business owner, you're dead wrong. But most people do. And the deal is pretty much that what I said before, 90% of us have the mindset of employees. That's how we've been trained. That's how we've been conditioned. But really, if you want to become an entrepreneur, a business owner, the reality is you must leave the herd. You must leave that kind of mindset and really be a change agent. So just warning, the 4 warnings that I really tell business owners is when you establish your business and which is really leaving the herd. And number 1 is that when you leave the herd, people are going to turn on you. It's the reality. They will attack you. You try, and this is people in your tribe, your loved ones, your friends, not all of them, but there will be some. They're looking at you, they're looking at themselves, and they're envious, okay? Because they're not courageous enough to venture out and do what you're willing to do. And sometimes that bruises people's egos. I can think back to when we first established our ranch. Like I said before, it's been in my family since the 1880s, but guess what? It's lay dormant for almost 60, 70 years where it went unfarmed. It wasn't until my dad and I went back down to the land and start, buying cattle. And then, we figured out, okay, we need to get our pasture up. So all of a sudden, within about 2, 3, 4 years, you've got this nice, beautiful looking farm out there. We went ahead and, we were able to obtain some equipment, which was probably more expensive than people were used to seeing, family members were used to seeing. And instead of being encouraged, guess what? We were looked down upon, and really it wasn't them looking down upon us. It was that we had left the herd, that we had ventured out. And I know everybody knows the story of the crabs in the pot. Was that kind of thing. Who do you guys think you are, going out here and establishing a farm operation? How dare you? So just expect that. Okay. If that doesn't happen and you get supported, great. But don't get discouraged. Okay. Just know that that's human nature, is that person is really kind of looking at you and thinking to them, and they're actually envious of you. They're just expressing it a different way. So don't get discouraged if that happens, because like I said before, half the battle is knowing what to expect. I would also say that it's not about if, it's when you get knocked down. You're going, as I said before, you're going to have some setbacks in business. And really it comes down to how long you allow yourself to stay down once you get knocked down. Because it's always going to hurt, but it's always about getting back up on that horse as quickly as possible. And the sooner you can do that, that's what's going to separate you from everybody else. As I said before, 2 out of 3 businesses go out of business that have started. And the biggest reason for that is, that they, when they get knocked down, most people give up and go, okay, let me go back to the safety zone, the comfort zone. And you don't want to allow that to be you. I'm trying to think if I have any stories behind that. I think the best one I could think of is when we started out, as I said before, it was actually my dad's lifelong dream to run a cattle ranch. He used to love watching those old school black and white cowboy movies. And he actually was born and grew up on the land. And then he moved north to the shipyards of Seattle. So his dream to move back onto the land so he took an early retirement. But we didn't know what we didn't know about farming. So we just kind of jumped in head first because we're adventurous that way. We're kind of weird that way. So we jumped in head first, and it wasn't long until we found out, hey, before you can buy cows and put them out on the land, you better have some grass to feed them, So that was a lesson, an expensive one too, because you can imagine having a herd of expensive cows out there and, having to run, week by week and try to grab hay or something to feed them. It added up. So that set us way, way back. But guess what? It was a learning lesson. What ended up happening out of that is we had to retool, regather ourselves, and we just jumped in head first and started learning everything that we could about, pastures and becoming grass farmers. And one thing led to another. We started going to all these different meetings, met one guy who specialized in this hybrid grass called Tifton 85. And lo and behold, fast forward, we were the Brazos County, became the Brazos County specialist, and really actually probably Texas statewide specialist in growing Tifton 85, growing, planting, cutting Tifton 85. So what started out as a cattle business became a bustling, prosperous grass business because there was a need for it. So I just say that to say, what we didn't do is we didn't stay down and go, you know what, this farming thing's not going to work out. We learned from it and we got ourselves back up and dusted ourselves up and turn something that was a negative into a positive. So the other thing I would say is that you will, kind of along the same thing, you will become unpopular when you stop, being like your peers. Many of your peers are going to stop liking you and hanging out with you. To be a change maker, you have to push the status quo sometimes. And when you do that, you can guarantee that there's going to be some haters. I hate to say that, but that's really the case. I hope I'm not sounding negative here. I'm just trying to give you guys the real on what to expect. And you really just want to look at it as it's a sign that you're on the right path. When you have someone who's trying to hold you back, it's probably telling you, yeah, this is probably what I need to do. And you will be alone. There will be, sometimes you will find yourself, that there's not a lot of other people like you. Like I said before, since the time of childhood, most of us, 90% of us have been conditioned to, to go to school and to be employees, not employers, not to be the person running our show. And because of that, you will be alone. I do encourage you to really tap into some of the people that you see in the room, develop those friendships and those forums, because you will need to feed back into each other. One other thing I will note, that when you do hit these speed bumps, it's very important that you love what you do. So if you are planning to to be a producer, run your own farm, my hope is you really enjoy doing that. Because if not, it's unlikely that you're going to persevere when things really get tough. So I've said a lot. I probably should slow it down, see if there's any questions, and then I'll jump into kind of the next a few more tips that I want to share with you. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Jake's got a question.
Yes.
Hey, Phil, do you have any advice about like separating your like personal finances from business finances and how to protect yourself?
Yes, I would. I have a few things. I would say, number one, excellent question. There, I would say, don't quit your day job until you're ready to. That's just my personal advice. If you do some moonlighting, start setting some money aside and getting some cushion. There's something about having a little bit extra money set aside, a little peace of mind set aside, I call it. It just changes your mindset, and it gives you more momentum. The other thing I would say, just depending on what your accounting prowess is, important to open up a business bank account and to at least use that as a ledger, so you can start separating your personal income from your business income. Easy to say that, hey, no worries, I'll track everything, but it's always best when you go into business to actually have that in your accountant actually will thank you for that as well. So those are my two little tidbits without getting too deep in the weeds on the financial side of it, unless you guys want me to.
Oh, ask a question, Bertice.
As far as the financial side, what does that mean between being a sole proprietor and LLC once you have enough of a rainy day fund to actually separate and move as an entrepreneur instead of an employee?
I think it comes down to a sole proprietor and an LLC really comes down to how your business is operating. LLC, a sole proprietor basically says, my name is Phil Ross and I'm a farmer. An LLC says, my name is Phil Ross and I also have a separate business in farming. So two different things. I think the biggest difference there, other than some of how an accountant would view it, sometimes the accountant would view some of those things the same, but the biggest thing is the protection piece of it. As a LLC, if I accidentally run over somebody's toes with my trailer, then I did that as an LLC, and because I'm set up, they can come after my business and sue my business, but they technically cannot, I can separate that from my personal liability, if I'm doing a job or performance. So those are some of the main things. There's also something you may want to look up, S Corp. That's later on down the road, but that's for tax purposes as well. I don't think there's really any big tax savings or differences on the LLC and sole proprietor, but it's more so on the liability, the business liability piece.
Yeah, I think they're taxed exactly the same. Bertice, you have another question?
As far as your life work balance, since you do have multiple businesses, how did you figure that out from you and your father deciding to go feet first head into this to now actually being able to have a plan and you have some time in the business?
Well, it did help that he was retired. First and foremost, if you're going to work with family, make sure it's the right family member. My dad and I are, we've always been best friends, and we've had, so we knew that it wasn't going to be difficult. However, my brother, who's a great with farming and ranching and is like a master gardener, we brought him into the mix and it started getting a little toxic. So be careful with, I'll just put that out there. So be careful, with family. But if that, it is what it is, but the work-life balance is really what I found that I needed to do was create what I call jam sessions. There was a few, without getting too deep in this one, is jam sessions. I would schedule every Sunday I would schedule my week. And within my week, I would take 90-minute sessions to make sure I did what's most important, because I'm an entrepreneur. So I don't have anybody, tell me what I need to do. So if I don't do it, it's probably not going to get done. So I had to be very organized and purposely organized, even as checking my emails. I would set my emails every 3 hours. So maybe 8 o'clock, 11, 2 and 5. And guess what? If I didn't get all my emails I checked at 8 o'clock, guess what? I knew that I could get to it at 11. Same with some of the important tasks. I'd wake up in the morning and go, hey, what are my top 3 things I need to do? I didn't need to put 10 on there, because guess what? You're never going to get to 10. And then the 3 most important are not going to get the attention you want them to get. Get your top 3 in there. And then I would go jam sessions. I'd go night, because I've got a lizard brain. I'm easily distracted. And so I literally, like my wife, she can get stuff done with the TV on and all that. I literally got to turn everything off and get those tasks done in a 90-minute session. If 90 minutes goes by, guess what? I close everything up and I get to the next, and then I wait until my next jam session's up, and then I'll finish that up. But at least I try to get those. It's very satisfying for me to be able to check off those 3 main items I wanted to get. So that's my advice for work-life balance. I'm not sure if that was the exact question you asked, or maybe I went a little bit deeper.
You can. It's all of that. I just
Okay.
want to know the stuff that we're not going to be told, like when
Yeah.
my mind and I'm worried about losing everything. How do you figure that out, especially when you're doing that with family?
Yeah, you take, if you're gonna have 50 things, typically, and I'll get to this kind of toward, I'll hit it a little bit harder in some of my tips towards the end. But it's almost like you want to view it like putting a puzzle together. When you're starting a business, you want to start, for me, when I do a puzzle, I don't start in the middle. I find the little edge pieces. So what are those edge pieces for you in your life? Because everybody's life is different. What are your goals? What are your priorities? What is your budget? What do those things look like? You start there, you create the framework, and then you just start filling in the pieces from there. But if you don't have a framework, it's going to take you twice as long to do that puzzle, put that puzzle together. And at some point, you're probably going to put that puzzle back in the box, So that would be my feedback. And hopefully I'm hitting your question. If I'm not, I apologize.
one very honest question as someone of color in Texas. How hard has it been for you versus first starting and thankfully having your dad to have support with to now, financially and just as regular business?
Not as hard as you may think. What I found as a person of color in Texas between you and I is because so many people of color, kind of have their head in the sand, meaning, they're fearful of going out and leaving the tribe, that when I've done so and people can see that I'm consistent or that my dad's consistent, we're serious about this, then they feed into us. It's like, oh, okay, well, great. Hey, P-Way, we've got this over here. Won't you take a look at this? So for me, sure, there's the racial side of it, but for the most part, and I've had to deal with that as well. I have walked into situations where it was just blatant racism, but for the most part, once you show somebody that you're serious about doing it, as a Black man, I've had people actually pull me along. It's just the toughest part for me is to watch others who are so much into their head that they're kind of dip their toes in the water, but they don't dive in because they don't believe they can, the belief part. And I was blessed to grow up in a household where I said, no, sky's the limit, you go for it, And I understand it took me a while, but I understand that hasn't been everybody's journey. It's been my journey. Like I said, I've stubbed my toe too, but my mindset has always been, I can get this done. I can do it. And if I don't know it myself, I'm going to find the answer. There's someone out there who knows it that I need to be talking to.
What is the hardest thing that you have experienced for you thus far, or hardest things?
The hardest thing for me would be the language. I've found that in many cases that whether it's, talking to a soil specialist or someone, who's a financial guru, it's the language. If I don't normally run in that lane, what I've had to do, because I'm more of a numbers guy, I've had to learn to write things down, versus being intimidated. What most people do when they hear some verbiage or some grammar or some phrasing that sounds like it's way over their head, most people, 90% of people actually cower from that. I've learned to really lean into it. I used to be one of those who cowered from it too, so don't get me wrong. But what I've learned is that that's what's keeping me on the sidelines. So now if I heard some phrase, I'm like, okay, I don't know really what that word or terminology is. I'll write it down and find it out. And there's no excuse for me not to, because guess what? I've got a cell phone that's got internet on it. Let me just Google this real quick or whatever. We have the information at our fingertips. So guess what? If you don't know it, learn it, especially if you're hearing this phrasing over and over again. And what I found for me is in many cases, it's not that difficult. I just don't speak that way. Oh, okay, that's all it means. Great, I got it, and upward and onward. But I do it every time. So that would be the most difficult thing I had to overcome, was my lack of vocabulary and understanding. But I had to be willing to research the information and understand it. And if I didn't understand it, be willing to ask questions. I think going back to Black people is what I found is we have been browbeaten. I mean, it's real in our side, but one of the results of that is that we have a lot of pride, meaning we don't ask questions because we don't want to feel like we're not smart enough. But the reality is the smart people ask questions all the time, So anyway, that would be my feedback on it.
And most positive experiences, not just the negative ones.
Most positive experiences, I kind of shared it before, is just people do want to help. I think we tend to focus on the negative. My experience has been, if once you show the initiative and that you want to be helped and that you're interested and that you don't know it all, but hey, I want to know it. Can you help me out? People are there to help you out. They're there. And if someone isn't, guess what? People people will show you who they are when they do believe them. Move on to the next person. So to me, that's been the most positive experience is once I've shown initiative, in most cases, doors have flown open for me because people do want to help you if they think, that you're going to step forward and take advantage of, what they share with you.
Um, how soon should you look at like getting an accountant and a lawyer and like about how much you can like plan to set aside for that?
Probably depends on the business you're in. I like for a farmer, I work with a lot of beginning farmers. I tell them, hey, if they already have their land or they're on family land or they've got a backyard garden or something like that, you know what? Go out and sell at a farmer's market and see what that's like and start establishing your clientele and your business. And as things grow, yeah, by all means, start building it out, but first there's no substitute for experience. And what I've seen a lot of times, I've seen farmers go out and get these $100,000 farm loans, and they've never even put their hands in the dirt before, It's like, do you got a business plan? Well, no, but hey, I got this nice shiny tractor out here. Well, man, you got any clientele to what's your business? Well, I'll figure it out, So it really, I'm just saying that to say, I've seen the best business I've seen have just grown, no pun intended, organically.
Mm. Any other question? Just start. Just do it.
Just start and just sell stuff.
Yeah. Just fail your way forward, be adventurous, get your, like I said, start with the putting that puzzle together with the straight edge pieces. And, just like what I told you, we went out and bought a bunch of expensive cows. I mean, some of the most expensive ones you can find, that's the ones we got. Oh, we want those, threw them out there on the land and, oh my God, why am I writing all these checks? Why is my bank account being depleted? Well, you didn't go about it right. We didn't do our due diligence, but so I don't tell anyone to do it that way. But yes, if you've got a nice little vegetable garden and you want to see, just get into business, you may find your niche, you may stumble up on your niche, whatever that may be, figure out what people want. And I'll continue. I'm going to share some sales tips with you now, but the key is find a need and fill that need. For us, it was grass farming. People needed to feed their horses and their cattle, and they needed a grass that could withstand, the Texas heat, but still be nutritious for the cows. And we ended up meeting a guy out of Georgia, just gave us some seeds and said, hey, try this out at a conference. And one thing to another, and we became the Tifton 85 specialist in Brazos County. People had us on speed dial. Not only were we planting the sprigs, but we were, cutting people's lawn, we were selling hay. And, sure, we had some expensive cattle out there on our land, but now we could actually pay for them.
Did you have a question, Alicia? Alicia's got a question.
I had a question about like confidence and self-doubt, because I'm 27 and I've worked in like managerial roles and director roles where I'm often definitely the youngest person on that level. And and also just being like a young Black woman too, in those spaces. And a lot of the times, like when I'm in those spaces, I feel like um, sometimes I have like a lot of crippling like self-doubt about like my abilities to like do the job, but then I do it and I do it really well. And then there's also this like grief that comes with it too, because it's like, damn, I've really been holding myself back. You know, so I'm wondering like if you've experienced that, and like how do you deal with that grief of like realizing how much you've held yourself back in the past, and then also seeing that in others too, because I know you talked about that a lot, as well as seeing like just the self-imposed limitations that a lot of our community like puts on themselves. So how do you deal with that?
I think the most important thing is to expect it. I think from what you just said and shared with me, you're aware of it, you know, and I just already kind of put it out in your face that, hey, this is what happens to every entrepreneur, Black, white, green, yellow, everyone. So expect it. It's how our society was built. Our society was built with the industrial mindset to create employees. Everything about our school system is what you're battling in your own head right now. It's not designed for entrepreneurs. That's why you see, so few of them, and then when someone does venture out like yourself, this why there's struggle. So I would say support, Farmshare Austin, lean into them as much as you can with your Farmshare Austin family. We have our organization as well. You can tap into that as much as you need to, but just surround yourself with like-minded people because you're going to need that. That's what helped me, was to be able to tap into other people. And I had been doing it so long, like I said, before I became a cattle rancher, I made that leap, and it was scary. It was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, which is become an entrepreneur. And haven't looked back since. But I can say there was many others who tried it as well. Didn't turn out so good, and they, ended up going back to what they were doing. Probably not as happy, but for me, like it was YOLO, you only live once. I might as well enjoy it, and it's going to be on my terms. Not everybody has that mindset, but if you do, lean into your support group, your support resources that are going to continue to feed into you. The other thing I would say is always be learning. So many of us, we were trained that, okay, once you get out of high school, and if you're fortunate enough to get a college degree or a master's, guess what? You know everything you need to know. Not the case at all. As I look back on my college, all it really taught me was, how to get through something. But the actual items that I learned change all the time. We're in a dynamic industry. What I learned what you learned 5 years ago in college probably doesn't apply now, depending on what your industry or what your profession is. So always be learning, that's another thing. But again, surround yourself with like-minded people, and that will help propel you, because there's going to always be that group that's going to have negativity. Look at our social media. You look on there, 90% of the stuff is negative, because look at all the reality shows on TV. They're all train wrecks because they know we like watching train wrecks. So, half that stuff is canned anyway because they know we like train wrecks.
Bertie's got something for you again.
As far as struggling with those things, has there been, first of all, thank you for youth farmers, as far as that being a place of safety for folks like myself. While you were getting in business, were there any safe spaces for you as a man, as a Black man, as a person of color, as a farmer in general, to go and get help when you needed it, or if you didn't know something? Are there public spaces for that, or was it just more word of mouth asking for help?
There was no public spaces when we started out, that's why we established our organization on that premise. So now there are, such as our organization, but yes, at the time there was nothing. So it was, but again, we had each other. I had my dad and I, and then we started meeting other farmers who they were browbeaten too, but guess what? They believed in what we were doing was needed, and we just kind of grew our community that way. So I do encourage you to grow your community or tap into our community as well. We're here for you. That's why we exist.
So what is y'all's next farming event for me to meet more farmers?
Yeah, the next farm. So we have events. We do most of it because of COVID is being virtual. I can put probably in the chat at some point our last event, which was the 10 entrepreneurial tips to make your farm dreams come true. So that actually feeds into our class today. So we can put that in there. We have another one coming up, which is business planning 101. Don't want to steal Farmshare's thunder, so I won't say too much on that. But our organization is designed to be educational, but also be a safe place as well for Black farmers to learn what they need to learn. And if we don't know it or cover it, we can point you in the right direction. We have some pretty cool stories of farmers who reached out to us and just as recently as last week, who were put in the right direction, who didn't really know what direction to go. They were, I said farmers, they're landowners, and we were able to get them on the right path to restore some of their land. So that's part of who we are.
Do we have any Black farming billionaires out there? Do those things exist? Is that a thing?
Is farming billionaire a thing?
I'm just wondering in general.
Bill Gates.
Yeah. For anybody, but
I don't personally know of any. I know we had Earl Campbell doing his thing, but I don't know how that turned out. I have to probably do a Wikipedia search and see how that what he's up to today.
Just wondering.
He had his sausage. I know he had his sausage and meat company out there. Yeah. All right. Any more questions?
That was a business question as far as
All right. I'll keep it moving. I want to give you guys a few. I know this isn't really part of the agenda, but one of the most important topics, there's 4 essential business skills, as I said earlier: sales, leadership, team building, and productivity. And out of those 4, sales is the most important, because without sales, you have no business. So I wanted to hit you with just a few tips as far as mindset is concerned when it comes to, establishing a business. I think the first one is to know that there's only really 2 reasons why people buy something. Number 1 is they have a need that needs to be solved. And number 2, an opportunity they believe exists. So either those 2 things are the reason why they're buying your product, all the way down to some of the produce that they're buying, So sales and marketing is really just getting inside your target audience's head and understanding what they want, understanding what their thoughts are and really what they want. So that's the mindset as an entrepreneur you want to have. I see so many people come up with great ideas, or they're good at something, and then they're wondering why, it's still sitting on the shelf, or even if it's a service, how come it's not selling? Because you haven't got into your clients, your customers' mind to really understand what their wants are. It's great that you have a great product, but does someone want it? And if so, how many people want it? I would say this, that if they're not buying it, it's because they're not convinced it's something they need to have right now. And the thing that most business owners need to know, that it's not about what your product does, it's about who the buyer will be once they obtain it? Who do they think they are once they attain it? You know, that's the question that you need to answer yourself. You know, for example, I told you that we went out and bought a bunch of expensive cows, and over time we had a reputation of having the best cattle, you know, around Brazos County. So I can remember one day loading up the cattle with my dad. I think my son needed some braces or something. So I'm going to sell off some cows, you know, and get some funds so my son could get some new braces, right? So we go round a few of our cows, and we're pulling up to the cattle auction, and I mean these guys are going crazy. I'm like, what is, you know, going, because I don't usually go to the cab. My dad usually does that. So, and sorry for the dog in the background. My wife just pulled up with some groceries. But they're going crazy, and I'm like, Dad, what's going on? He said, oh, they see Holgany Farm Products, which is the name of our cattle business and grass business, and they know we have the best cattle, so they want to buy them. They want to make sure that they, as cattle producers themselves, these guys want to make sure that they get to the cattle first and hand pick them before they go into the auction. And the reason that they were doing that is because they knew if they purchased one of our cattle, that they become owners of a quality breed. And that's the mindset you want to look at. What does your client want? You know, and how do they see themselves? And then just design, kind of reverse engineer your business that way. The last thing I'll say as far as sales tips is know that your buyers are selfish. They're only interested in their wants and their needs based on what they're facing right now. Okay, so it's a tough sell if you're trying to sell something based on down the road. Sometimes you can sell unless it's important to that person. For instance, health. You know, everybody wants nice, healthy, fresh food. If that's important to a person, then that's what you sell. However, if you know that that's really not high on a person's list, they might buy it, you know, at a premium price, they may not. So I just want to hit that on the sales side as an entrepreneur, because while the other skill sets are important, if you don't have any sales, then you're out of business before you're in business, to be honest with you.
Got a question.
Yes.
How did you build your brand to get that consumer demand for longevity?
It was actually by accident. We bought those cows. We bought those expensive cows. But once we bought those expensive cows, with the other thing that we did, we were kind of a purple unicorn because we were the only Black farmers out there. So Black farmers with quality cows was almost unheard of, you know, and because we're right around the corner from Texas A&M, you know, there it's what's usually called poor cows or whatnot. That's what they're used to seeing when they saw a Black farmer were some of the poor cows. We had quality cows, and we were grass farmers, so our cows are always fat and flush, you know. So we just built that brand. We made sure that we kept that up. We made sure that we were, you know, doing everything that we could do to make sure that our herd looked quality. And over time, as people would buy and they would build their herds based out of our herds, word of mouth would just travel, you know. So now we built that reputation, and that could work in the opposite too. You know, you can build a bad reputation, and it's gonna, you know, people will talk, you know, if something goes bad. We just really tried to deliver on the quality of our cattle, and then the rest took care of itself. All right.
Okay, so
Come over here.
Mr. Ross, so with your cattle, do you just feed them grass, or sometimes you substitute them with some legumes or grains, if any? And then Also, when you say the quality of your cattle, is it the breed or is how you raise them?
A little bit of both. So we haven't really, we just kind of stuck them out there. We haven't really as far as feeding them anything other than the Tifton 85 and some of the Bermuda grasses and things like that. We just have made sure that we kept our pastures up. I know there are farmers who, you know, do different things to feed them. We do cubes sometimes just to treat the cows. We'll give them some, you know, cubes and salt lick and things like that. But pretty much, we just bought quality cows with good pedigree and made sure we kept our records strong. And then just like you would buy, let's say a dog, you know, a dog breed, you know, it's important. That's how we kind of viewed it. We sell our cattle to other producers who are trying to build their herd up so they can sell it, or they can sell it either to the cattle yard or to other breeders who crossbreed to get the type of meat that you get. But we didn't do anything special. We didn't feed them any certain type of grass other than the Tifton 85 that we grew, and just made sure that we maintained our pasture lands, so they can always have something nice and nutritious to eat. All right. Did I answer that question? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You may have already answered this one, but as far as getting into the grass, how did you and your dad get into that where y'all became with the Tipton 85?
So we were invited to, we would go to, once we figured out that we needed to have grass and that it was costing us tons of money not having a quality pasture, we just started attending events just to learn what we needed to learn to establish a quality pasture. And in doing so, we would go to this conference and that conference. And I think we went to a conference in Georgia. I think we went, it was in Georgia. I wasn't there, but my dad was there, and some guy just came up to him and said, "Hey, I'm seeing you at these events. I've got this great grass, this hybrid grass that came out, you know, here's some seed, try it on your land. Let me know how, you know, give me a call, see how it works." And so my dad brought it from Georgia, planted it, it took off. And I still got an article in the paper. If I was thinking, I would have showed you where my dad's holding this long, you know, piece of grass, you know, Tifton 85, you know, sprig that, you know, in the newspaper, in the College Station newspaper. And that kind of blew us up. All of a sudden, we were the grass people at this point. So, and then we would just go around and either plant it or plant, you know, plant new pastures for everyone in the county to a point where we ran out of people to plant for, you know, so we were then out of business. But it was a good run.
So a lot of it's networking
Yes.
and just getting out there and talking to people.
Yes.
The networking between the Georgia guy who gave the seats to his father, mostly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you know, grass is a problem for everyone in Texas. So if I could be the next Black person to sell seeds for grass,
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. I can retire early.
It's about networking and getting out there. Again, we were purple unicorns because there wasn't a lot of other Black farmers. That's just not what Black farmers did, was go to conferences and events. And here we are there all the time. So like I said earlier, there's always that sector who want to help out, you know, and people the guy literally walked up to my dad and gave him these seeds, which turned out to be, you know, our business, you know, our main bread and butter. So it's opportunity, it's networking, it's getting out there. I'm not saying that will happen to everybody, but guess what? You can't win it unless you're in it, like the lottery.
That just sounds like a wonderful way for an estate to plan out, because you bought the cows, then you realize you need grass, and needed grass is what took off.
Yeah, but if you never started, then those like opportunities never would have arisen. Yeah.
Exactly.
But also knowing where to get super quality cows is also great.
Oh, we probably got ripped off too when we bought those super cars. We didn't know what we were doing. I'm sure we overpaid. But hey, we did it. We just jumped into it, and we're still here to talk about it. So I'm going to give you guys just some closing tips. I talked about, always looking when you're building your business, look at it as, putting a puzzle together. So, you want to start with the border pieces, as I talked about when you're viewing your business, putting together the goals, your, planning and your priorities. The other thing is that you want to do one piece at a time. When you're doing a puzzle, you can't put 5 pieces together at once. That's not going to work. Guess what? You're going to quit real fast. That puzzle's going back in the box because you're not going to be able to figure it out. But you want to just have one move at a time. So make sure that you map it out. You do that one move. If that doesn't work, you pivot to something else. Okay. The other part is don't force what doesn't fit. Again, using the analogy of putting a puzzle together, is that, even if it looks like it's something that you should be doing, such as building your team or, hey, this guy is a great guy to talk to, for this or some ideas. You're going to have tons of ideas. It's going to be, as a business owner, you're going to come across a lot of nice, shiny things. Okay. But if it works, great. If it doesn't, it's okay to table it, and go with what does work. Just like what we're talking about with the grass farming thing, versus trying to start out and be cattlemen. So on the flip side, sometimes some pieces that don't seem like they'll fit actually do, so if you stumble into it, like we stumbled into the grass seeds, which turned into something else, roll with it. At the end of the day, a business is all about filling a need, and if it's a great need, that's all the better. The other thing I would tell you is sometimes it takes a fresh set of eyes to help you out, especially when you hit a wall, so sometimes if you hit that wall, sometimes it takes that person, reach back to Michelle and say, hey, I'm having this issue, or a trusted advisor, trusted friend, and let them take a look at it. Sometimes by a different person looking at it from a different perspective, they'll reveal an answer that you weren't going to ever come up with. So that would be a tip. And as I said earlier, you're going to want to quit. At some point, you are going to get discouraged as a business owner. Just take a prayer break, just stop, take a little time off, decide what's next, and keep moving forward. And then I will finish things up by just saying that just know the joy is in the journey. The thing that, it's really not about reaching any kind of finish line. It's all really about loving building something, enjoying the build. And, once it's complete, like the puzzle, once the puzzle is complete, what do? You break it down and either do it all over again. I know it doesn't make sense, but hey, the joy is in the journey. So especially as an entrepreneur, we are builders. That's what we do. So enjoy it, enjoy the good, enjoy the bad. Sometimes there's gonna be some ugly in there too. But hopefully it's more good than bad. If it's just bad, you're doing the wrong thing, at some point. So but that's pretty much it. I don't know, Michelle, if I've hit on the things that you were looking for today, but hopefully I served the purpose here.
I think it was
You
really
gave me real answers, so that's a lot more than most, because I feel like a lot of folks have been trying to give us decent, like, professional answers, and I don't want the professional version. I want the real gritty version of what it looks like when I want to be out there in the dirt, losing my mind, ready to give up. Tell me what helped you not give up. Like, when people, I haven't heard anyone specifically give their why, but no one's given us like the
My passion, I'm built for it. at the end of the day, not everybody is built for business. For me, like I said, the joy is in the journey. But it had to be something I was passionate about, and if I wasn't passionate about farming, if I wasn't passionate about, financial literacy, if I wasn't passionate about my wife's bakery and those delicious baked goods, what once it gets rocky, guess what? You're gonna cash in the chips because the fine, everybody says they want it, but how much do you want it, when the chips are down, and if you're just chasing the money part of it, it's probably not going to work as an entrepreneur. But if you have the passion and you believe that you can do it, and if you don't believe you can do it, get around people who are going to lift you up. There's enough people out there who would tear you down. And the other thing is expect that, and know that when people are not encouraging you and supporting you, and it's something that in your heart that you can do, that's okay. Expect it. That's how we've been trained, and they're really just envying you. That's all that is envy. It's just being expressed in a negative way.
And what's the name of this bakery that we need to try? What's the shop?
It is ATOL cakes.com. A touch of love cakes.com. It's dangerous though. I'm just telling. Hey.
That's how she got the ring, huh?
No, she got the ring. Yeah, she would have got it. She would have got it a lot faster. Put it that way. If I would have known.